Hey, what's up, party people? It's your old pal F here. Time once again for another episode of completely unscripted, unrehearsed, unprofessional, uneverything episode of F Bombs. This is my little corner of the interwebs where I talk about mostly cartoons, the animation industry, all that fun stuff in general. And the main reason I do these, and the main reason I do these on the cheap, is because I like to pass the savings on to you by putting all of my actual resources into the making of the cartoons that this channel is built around. So once you are done watching this video, um, please do me a big favor and go check out the cartoons that we have on this channel. In particular, season one is compiled for your convenience onto one video. Check that out. But we've also got newer stuff on there as well. I am happy to report that season two is going to be coming throughout the entire summer of 2026. And oh my goodness, the stuff we have planned for you guys is absolutely amazing. So please do all the things. Like, share, subscribe, talk about us on social media, spread the word, let everyone know we're here because we're a little bit different. We are not doing cartoons for the adult to teenage crowd. We're doing cartoons for, the folks who miss sort of slapstick, Tex Avery, Looney Tunes, classic Nickelodeon, classic Cartoon Network cartoons. Cartoons that kids can enjoy. These are all kid-friendly. Kids can enjoy them, but parents can watch along with them and not feel like they have to bash their heads against the wall. And as a parent, that's something I thoroughly appreciate. Because goodness knows, there are some kids for younger viewers, or there are some cartoons for younger viewers that really could make a parent want to bash their heads against the wall. Okay, so one of the things, the topic I figured is, so again, like, share, subscribe, please, and by the way, just tell your friends, tell tell families, tell your friends' families, just tell everyone about the channel because we're doing something a little different than what everybody else is doing right now, and we're doing it completely free, completely like just supported by our love of the craft. And when I say our, I mean mostly my fantastic, amazing, wonderful teams at Fountains Pen Productions, who are all people with a love for the craft of animation and the art form of animation, who are all mostly completely inexperienced and getting their first experience on these cartoons. So this channel is not just a vessel for, the cartoons that we put together. It's a way to support independent media. And I think independent media is kind of the wave of the future, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today because, my goodness, I'm tired about talking about AI. If you were to go to my Twitter page, and why wouldn't you? There's a lot of talk about AI, and it would be very easy to discern from that I just love talking about AI and that I just love bashing on it and talking about how it's theft and that I just really get my jollies from talking about AI. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'm really tired of talking about it. The thing is, and I do think some great strides have been made literally just in the past week. It seems like the AI bubble is in the process of bursting. But more than that, I want to say I do not believe for an instant that AI as a technology is going to just go away because we think it's icky. First of all, I'm speaking entirely about AI generated imagery. I'm not talking about AI, the technology in general. That is going to be ubiquitous. Everyone keeps saying it's going to be part of our daily lives. Guess what? They're right. Now, how we make that happen in a way that's less apocalyptic is up to anybody's guess at this point. And I'm hoping for a world where AI does, in fact, make our lives easier and make things more convenient for us and help us out with things that we would rather not do. Um, no, I do not have a problem with technology. In fact, my goodness, I wish my darling Cintiq had entered into my life 10 or 15 years before it did. I wish I could have gotten in on the CGI animation boom, because in the handful of times that I've directed for CGI animation, it's been really fun. I love technology. I've got a whole collection of robots over there. You know, I love technology. I love to see advances in technology. But, and by the way, when AI first came out, I was kind of ignorant as to how it worked. I was just sort of like, oh wow, they've taught artificial intelligence how to draw, and you could, you know, take something you've drawn, feed it into an AI, and just basically say, okay, you know, give me some animation based on these drawings, and it could do it. Now, that's not entirely untrue. What I didn't know when it first came out was that the only reason the AI can do that is because it has been fed the work of literally countless. When I say countless, I mean you couldn't even think of a number if you wanted to. Countless artists have been ripped off by this technology because the AI companies, without compensation, without credit, without consultation, have taken the works of just countless artists and fed it into their software and said, here, learn how to draw from this. That's why when some of the software first started coming out, you would see all kinds of stuff that looked like Miyazaki had done it, except crap. You would see other things that looked like Aardman Animation had done it, but crap. It's because they fed them all of this protected, copyrighted material and forget about the big names, forget about Disney, forget about all the stuff, you know, all the big names that it rips off. It took everything it could off the internet. So undoubtedly it's been trained on stuff of mine. I hope the AI realizes just how unsatisfying it is to draw in my style. But joking aside, when AI first came out, I didn't realize that that's how it worked. Like, they trained it on countless artists' work without compensation, consultation, or credit. And that's just wrong. And as I've said many, many times, I do not wish for AI to be regulated. I don't want it banned. I don't even want this discussion to get so heated that, you know, people hate each other for or anything like that. I just want people to understand how the technology works. I want individual people to be aware that this is not a computer saying, I know how to draw now. No, this is a computer saying, I'm going to gather a bunch of information from a bunch of other artists, and I'm going to compile it in a way that produces an image that somebody has told me to produce. Because anecdotally, as I talk to people about how they think AI works, and this applies not just to image generation, this applies to everything. Many people out there seem to be under the impression that artificial intelligence is sentient, and it's just not. We are eons away from that kind of thing, if that's even possible. There is no sentience. There is no subjective experience in an AI-generated image. It can never replicate something that a human can with authenticity. It can only mimic it. Now, the mimicking is going to get really, really good, potentially to the point where you absolutely cannot tell the difference. Currently, as of now, every time I see a television commercial that uses AI-generated imagery, I can spot it from a mile away. I'm sure most people can't because most people are not weird like me, but I can spot it from a mile away. It's probably going to get to the point where I can't. That's not the point. It's not about quality, and it's not even about art. It's not even about, this is not art because a human did not produce this image. It's not even about that. It's about the fact that the software stole. And like I said, there's no putting the genie back in that bottle. It's the damage is done. It's already there. My whole thing is, I want the public to be aware of that. That's it. I want them to understand that if they're using generative AI, that they are working with stolen goods. They are not creating anything. They are producing things on the backs of actual creators who got no compensation credit, uh, and it was done without their permission. That's all I want. And as long as people know about that, if you want to still choose to use AI generated imagery, that is between you and your karma. But I think, and you can call me naive, I think people, by and large, are good and ethical creatures. I think human beings strive to do the right thing. And I think when presented with this kind of information, most people will go, oh, that's how it's made? Ugh, that's icky. I don't like that. I'll figure something else out. Okay? So that is my position on AI generated imagery. I don't see it as particularly radical. So no, I'm not a Luddite. I'm not someone who hates technology. I'm not someone who's trying to like have it banned or even regulated. None of that. I just want people to understand how it's made, and in the same way that so many people choose to eat free-range eggs or drive hybrid cars, I want people to have enough information to know that, they can make a choice, and there is a choice that is more ethical than AI-generated imagery. And it is for all of those reasons that I have been asked the question many, many times in recent months. Is there hope for the animation industry? What is going to happen with the animation industry? What is up with the animation industry? Will there even be an animation industry? And my short answer to that question is yes. I believe there will always be an animation industry. However, it is impossible to deny that the industry itself is going through a profound change. There's a bit of a battle going on between the people who love the shiny new toy versus the people who enjoy the human touch. And now the good news is I feel like we're seeing a lot of media that, actually capitalizes on the human touch, where they say, hey, guess what, everybody? No AI was used in making this. This is made by actual people, blah, blah, blah. You've got things like K-pop Demon Hunters, the GOAT, and many others where they're really like, they're pushing the fact that this was made by humans. And I think that's going to occupy a big space in the animation community. I think that's going to be almost its own niche, where it's like, okay, yes, you've got your 20th Minions movie churned out by an AI, and there's going to be an audience for that, and let them have it, I guess. And a certain segment of the population is going to enjoy that. But then you're also going to have things that come along like K-pop Demon Hunters and the GOAT and stuff where, and even the Into the Spider-Verse movies, those movies, stuff where they not only are not going for the biggest, flashiest thing, they want you to know that people made these things. And they're actually capitalizing on it. I think that because AI is going to be so ubiquitous, I think that the flip side of that is going to be that people will start to crave sincerity, and they'll start to crave genuine stuff with a genuine heart to it. And again, that's the kind of thing an AI can never hope to do with any authenticity. It can mimic it, but I think people will always be able to tell on some level. So I do think that there's going to be a whole segment of the animation industry that survives and thrives because of that. Now, that being said, I do believe that the industry, the industry, not the art form, not the craft, not even the media, but the industry is going to shrink significantly. And consequently, if you want to be someone who's a part of the animation industry, working in Hollywood or working in, one of the big media hubs of the globe, if you want to be one of those people, you are going to have to find a way to set yourself apart and exceed the work of your peers. You are, as an artist or as an animator, whatever it is you aspire to be, writer, director, whatever, you are going to have to prove that you are not only better than your peers, but that you bring something to the table that an AI can't. And as arrogant as this sounds, and sorry, not sorry, I can safely say that if I were still active in the animation industry, like if I were still, punching in at Nickelodeon every day, I wouldn't have that much fear of this technology because I know that I can bring something that nobody else can. Not only not AI, no other human being can. And that's just years and years of experience. And that comes from the evolution, evolving as an artist. I know what I can bring that nobody else can bring. Now, sometimes there'll be absolutely no demand for that, and other times there will be. And that has been my stock and trade since the very beginning, is bringing something that nobody else can bring. For a long time in the animation industry, you could get by very easily with really pretty rudimentary skills, because there was just a need for bodies who could draw and bodies who could sit in the chair and produce the work. And by the way, good for those people. Those people were the backbone of the industry for a long time, but it is going to get competitive in the same way that the automotive industry got competitive and every other industry got competitive, when machines would take over the parts of the job that didn't, require that individual touch. So, for all I know, it could be your greatest dream to be a prop designer on an animated show. Good on you. By the way, prop designers are awesome. They're some of the coolest people I've ever known in the industry were prop designers, and I could never do that. That's the thing. I think I even tried out a couple times to get a job as a prop designer, and it became clear that I'm not good at it. You not only have to be good at it, you have to be better than everybody else, and you have to bring something that nobody else can bring. That, I believe, is the future of the industry. Is if you want to be a professional artist in the animation industry, you have got to be prepared to bring your A game and have it be very apparent what you are bringing that no one or no thing else can bring. And that's tricky. That takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of introspection, and it takes a lot of sitting down every day and grinding stuff out and discovering what am I good at, what am I not good at, what and the stuff that I'm not good at, how can I get better at. That is going to take a lot of work. So, the short answer to that is yes, it's going to exist, but it's going to get very, very, very heated and competitive, and you, the individual, are going to have to be the one to advocate for yourself. Now, that's kind of my prediction for the industry as a whole. We're going to see it's going to exist, but it's going to continue to shrink, in my opinion. We're going to see fewer movies and fewer TV shows every year that goes by that are created by the big, big studios. But then on top of that, and this could be the real silver lining to this cloud, I believe independent media is going to continue to, gain momentum and grow and become a much more viable career path. It's probably not going to be for decades that becomes a career path where you're going to get health insurance or anything like that, but it's going to be a way that you can make a living. But you're gonna have to hustle. You're gonna have to essentially be a freelancer, because I think it's going to be global. Um, I think you're going to have whole teams of people making animated series who never meet each other in person. And you're going to have the producer is going to live in Ottumwa, Iowa, while the head storyboard artist lives in New Delhi, India. Like I think it's going to be that, and I think it's going to be very, very different. And in a lot of ways, that's going to be advantageous. You're not going to have studio executives constantly telling you things like, oh, I don't know, kids don't like talking animals anymore, and kids don't like superheroes anymore. Those are two things executives actually told me. You're not going to have that. You're not going to have executives breathing down your neck, and you're not going to have non-creatives telling you, I don't get that joke. You're not going to have that. So the work that comes out of independent media is going to be better than a lot of the stuff that Hollywood has been coming up with. And consequently, that may force Hollywood to go, ooh, gosh, maybe we are a little top-heavy in the executive department. Maybe we should start taking more risks, get back to our roots, and stuff like that. So, the future is, I think we're going to see, honestly, better stuff. I think, the quality of the narratives is going to improve. There's going to be some growing pains, and I particularly think what we're going to witness is that in the independent realm, you're going to have TV shows that do not look as slick as The Simpsons do, and you're going to have TV shows that are not as slick as Family Guy looks. They're not going to look as professional. They're going to be a little clunky, and they're not gonna look like they have a budget of millions of dollars per episode. But they're going to have heart, and they're going to speak to people, and they're going to have just more of that genuineness I talked about. And that, I think, is a good thing. I think people are going to respond not only favorably to that, I think they're going to respond enthusiastically to it. And as that happens, the independent media sphere will continue to grow itself. And so I think, the Hollywood sphere is going to shrink, the independent sphere is going to grow. And what's probably going to happen is they'll probably wind up being around the same size in some capacity. They'll just, make different stuff. And sometimes you'll want something from column A, and sometimes you'll want something from column B. Because, one of the things that has come out in the debate about all of this is gatekeeping and, oh, you artists are such snobs. I'm as far from an art snob as you can get. I like commercial media as well as independent media. It's like anything else, I can enjoy a McDonald's hamburger just as well as I can enjoy a fine lobster dinner at a 5-star Michelin rated restaurant. There is a place for both things in the world, and I think both things can coexist peacefully. That's the direction I think animation is going to go, and consequently, I think there's going to be a lot of competition between those two sides, and I think that competition is going to force everybody to do better. So and look, that's the optimistic view. The pessimistic view, it would be just that everything is going to be weird fruit people Love Island deal, and we're just going to see scads more of that, and that's going to be all media in the future. And that's when literally you can start counting down the seconds to when human beings' brains just turn into a soupy, gelatinous mush that just leaks out of our ears, and planet Earth just ceases to exist. That what if we go full hog in that direction? It's literally you'll be able to set your watch to when humanity will just dissolve into nothing. But I don't think that's the way it's going to go. I think the industry is going to change as it has always done. When I first started in the animation industry, it was really at the start of when people were getting scared of CGI, and CGI changed everything. But what everybody discovered shortly thereafter was that, okay, the industry has changed, and yes, it's not what it used to be, but it still exists. It just looks a little different, and that too uh, is what everyone can expect. I have seen the industry go through peaks and valleys, and I think this is a shakeup unlike one we have seen since the since the popularization of CGI animation. And I think this shakeup is even bigger in a lot of ways, and I think it's going to be even more profound and have deeper echoes. But I think when the dust settles, there will still be an animation industry. It will just look very different from what you're used to. What's important to those of us who are fans of animation, fans of cartoons, and um, those of us who are attached to the industry or want to be in the industry, the thing that's important for us is we need to understand it's not going to go back. There is no going back. What we can do is go, what did we get right back then? What did everyone do right back then? Let's adopt that and let's integrate that into how we're doing it now. That's what we can hope for. What's not going to happen is corporations are not just suddenly going to say, oh, you know what? We should start paying artists more, and we should get rid of AI, and we should do all this just because it's the right thing to do. That's what's not going to happen. So the rest of us have to adopt, adapt, and improve. And it's going to be on us. But I think that's a good thing in a way. I think, it's my hope that in the future you're going to see more creatives being the heads of entire studios. And creativity will be the buzzword that everybody uses, and that the industry will go in a direction where creativity and the ability to think outside the box and take risks and approach entertainment that way is going to be seen as a commodity. So that's it. That's what I think the future holds for the animation industry. For those of you who were hoping to break into an industry that was exactly the way it was in the late 90s and early 2000s, which was a great time, I should know because I was there, I think you need to face the fact that that's probably not going to happen. And by the way, when I broke into the industry, I thought I was going to spend a couple years at a studio, establish a reputation, and that studio would then have a contract with me. And I would have like a 10-year contract to only produce stuff for one studio, and that's how it would be. And I was told really early on that, like, yeah, those days are long gone as well. So, I have experienced something similar to this, and it was a huge disappointment to me at the time. But again, I learned pretty quickly that wound up being an advantage to be able to go from studio to studio based on, well, what are my interests? What do I want to work on? So, again, I think it's going to the industry is going to hinge on a very freelancey model, but which again, it's a little scarier because, like I said, you don't get things like health insurance, you don't get a 401k, but what you do get is freedom. If the idea is that you're an artist and you want to be able to capitalize on your skills and abilities, it's gonna be a gold mine or a gold rush or however you want to put it. You're going to be, free to go and do whatever you want, however you want in the industry. And again, there was a long time where you would, as an animator, you would be under contract to a studio and you couldn't create anything on your own because anything you created was owned by the studio. Well, that's going to be long gone. That is just never going to happen again. So you can be, maybe directing and storyboarding on two separate YouTube shows and then still creating your own show, and all three of them could generate income from you. But again, the impetus is going to be on the artists to figure out ways to make this work for themselves. Anyway, that's where I see the industry going. I hope this has been helpful to you in some way. And like I said, I have optimism for the industry. Please let me know what you think in the comments. And once again, please like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy the cartoons we do on this channel. Thank you for watching. Zigga zigga, party people.